Good morning.
Good morning.
It's lovely to be here again. So the last time I was here, my attention had been caught by a line from Dogen's Body and Mind Study of the Way. So I've been hanging around there, and I'm going to talk about another piece from that. But the last time was about the body, and this time was about the mind, if we were, of course, to engage in that distinction. So Dogen says, for the time being, let us say there are two approaches to studying the Buddha way, to study with the mind and to study with body. For the time being, somehow we have to talk about it, so we'll just provisionally divide it into these two categories so we can start to make words. So I'm going to read 3 paragraphs and then go on. I have no clock.
Behind you, I think it is.
Oh, thank you. The aspiration for enlightenment can occur within birth and death, within nirvana. It can also occur without concern for birth and death and nirvana. It does not depend upon the place where it occurs, nor is it hindered by the place where it occurs. Conditions do not arouse it, and knowledge does not arouse it. The aspiration for enlightenment arouses itself. This arousing is the aspiration for enlightenment. The aspiration for enlightenment is neither existent nor non-existent, neither wholesome nor unwholesome nor neutral. It is not the result of past actions. Even beings in the blissful realms can arouse it. The aspiration for enlightenment arises just at the time of arising. It is not limited by conditions. At the very moment when the aspiration for enlightenment is aroused, the entire world of phenomena arouses the aspiration for enlightenment. Although the aspiration for enlightenment seems to create conditions, it actually does not encounter conditions. The aspiration for enlightenment and conditions together hold out a single hand. A single hand held out freely. A single hand held out in the midst of all being. Thus, the aspiration for enlightenment is aroused even in the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, animals, and fighting spirits. So it seems strange to be using the phrase aspiration for enlightenment in a Shodo Zen practice center. I will talk about that. It's a matter that puzzled me for a long time, and I'm happy that it seems straightforward now. But that phrase, it's like it's repeated again and again. What is this thing? So I have been studying this a little bit. Masao Abe, who is a wonderful scholar, and to clarify aspiration for enlightenment. So we have the concept of original enlightenment, which is it's always there. And this is in Tendai Zen, where Dogen started, and it's in Shodo Zen, where we are now. And then there's the thought of acquired enlightenment, in which you work for a long time, and after many lifetimes or whatever, something happens. And Abe says, very simply, so there's something that is the ground of awakening. And that ground is the thing that we care about in Shodo Zen. Dogen wrote about it a lot. The way things are is original enlightenment. the occasion is practice. And that's what some other traditions emphasize. And it's what Abe calls acquired enlightenment. And so when Dogen says practice and enlightenment are one, here it is. It's like it's there, it's always there, whatever it is, the brilliant shining nature of reality, that thing that's beyond our thoughts completely. And it only manifests with practice. It arouses itself. So the aspiration for enlightenment is a vow, not a goal. With a goal, you're living in the future. You're out of the present. You're looking at something out there, and the present becomes a means to this end, which is also kind of objectified. So we don't have a goal of enlightenment. We have a vow. And we're immediately present, without separation. And we just live our lives here, moving in this direction. And that is very short. And I will invite questions. But I wanted to go back, this phrase, the sentence that really caught me here. The aspiration for enlightenment and conditions together hold out a single hand. And I want to invite you to enter this hold out a single hand for a moment. If you would turn to a person next to you, and one of you hold out your hand to the other. Oh, I never even imagined that. You guys can do it. Okay. And as you're holding out your hand, feel the quality of what it means to hold out your hand freely. So actually notice in your body what's happening in heart and belly. Perhaps your mind comes up with some little stories about this. Be present with that hand held out. And then experience yourself as the receiver of the hand held out. Someone is reaching out to you. Something is offered. And again, experience that. You are right here. What happens in your heart, in your breath, in your belly, your back, your thoughts. And when you're ready, let the hands come back and settle into what this body and mind does when a hand is offered to it. This is our condition in Zazen. The whole universe holds out its hand to us. And we also hold out a hand to all beings. The aspiration for enlightenment is something that can't be named. It can't be quantified. It is in the realm. Well, so it's called bodhicitta. It's called the mind of awakening or the heart of awakening, with emphasis on the heart. It is, many things are said, the vow to wake up from the dream that surrounds us, the intention, the direction towards awakening and of awakening, of not being asleep. This aspiration is not something that we create. It's not a result of coming to the Zen Center, practicing, studying, making plans, receiving robes. It's not a result of anything. It arouses itself. It's not dependent on place. It's not connected with time. It is beyond all our definitions. It's beyond karma. Karma has its place. But this thing, which it's, let's see, in Japanese it's Bodaishin, in Sanskrit it's bodhicitta, and it's translated here as the aspiration for enlightenment. The thought of enlightenment was an earlier translation, which seemed a little easier, and it said a little less. I thought I should trust the translator and use his later choice. It's just there. It's not good or bad. It seems like this aspiration, which arouses itself, and somehow we stumble into it one at a time, and then it causes things to happen. I read a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and I didn't know that it had anything to do with anything. I certainly didn't think there was a place called Minnesota Zen Center. But I kind of liked that book. And years later, one day, there was a poster on a bulletin board that said Introduction to Zen. And I went to it, and that was the end. It was all over. So I think this aspiration causes, perhaps, I mean, I could have walked right by that poster, but because the aspiration was there, I actually showed up at this event and listened to Karen Suna talk and so forth, and had my first experience of sitting zazen. So bodhicitta influences the world of conditions. It doesn't belong to the world of conditions. But the world of conditions is many things. And Dogen specifies, well, this can happen within birth and death and within nirvana. So you might not need, you might already be awake and it still happens. It doesn't depend on anything. It can happen in, where to go? In the blissful realms. It can happen in the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, animals, and fighting spirits. And this is pretty important, actually, because it's not contingent on whether you are a middle-class American or a street child in India or a refugee or, it doesn't matter where you are. This thing can still happen to you and your life can be transformed. Oh, I added something there. Because, of course, the secret is your life is transformed. Albert Einstein said once, the most important question is the universe a friendly place or not? When I entered this way, I moved from a universe that wasn't so kind into a universe that was fundamentally kind, that was always offering. And the question was whether I could understand or whether I could get the intention. It's a little risky. I just said the universe is a friendly place. The universe is also neutral, but I think that in this practice, the support of all beings is more important. I stumbled around a little bit. Give me a moment. So the condition of being supported by all beings is the condition in which we live. It's entering this practice is to enter that world of being supported. So a strange thing happened because I was worried about having enough time.
Shodo, would you
Yeah.
read the passage from Dogen again that you started with?
Yes, I would be happy to. I have some others I'd be happy to read too. But thank you. The aspiration for enlightenment can occur within birth and death, within nirvana. It can also occur without concern for birth and death and nirvana. It does not depend upon the place where it occurs, nor is it hindered by the place where it occurs. So it's just there. It's like space. It doesn't depend on anything, and it's not hindered by anything. Conditions do not arouse it, and knowledge does not arouse it. The aspiration for enlightenment arouses itself. So, this quality, it's like when I was growing up in the Lutheran Church, we talked about grace, and grace was like, you're not doing anything. Yours is completely not you. And here this is, it's completely given. It is absolutely and completely something else. Just as we say that Zazen sits Zazen, and we say it because that's actually what it is. once I said a sesshin by force of will. It was my first one. And it was a one day. Eventually I learned the other way to sit sesshin, which is to let it do itself. And I just kind of hang out with it, be present. The basic nature of her life. It arouses itself. The wonderful thing arouses itself. And the fact that arouses itself, this arousing is the aspiration for enlightenment. So this self-generating quality, that's the thing itself. The aspiration for enlightenment is neither existent nor non-existent, neither wholesome nor unwholesome nor neutral. So we have these dualities. Things exist, they don't exist. And then sometimes I add both exist and don't exist. Neither exist nor don't exist. But the aspiration for enlightenment is beyond categories. Wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral are useful when you're thinking about actions, but this is in the realm that's something other than actions. It's not the result of past action, so it's not part of that karmic process. Beings in the blissful realms can arouse it, and it just arises. It arises just at the time of arising. It is not limited by conditions. It could happen anywhere. And at the very moment when the aspiration for enlightenment is aroused, the entire world of phenomena arouses the aspiration for enlightenment. So it's like Buddha said, I together with all beings am enlightened. It's like you can't do this alone because you're not alone. You are the entire world of phenomena. The one that I was reading last time said, the entire world of the 10 directions is nothing but the true human body. In another spot he says, mountains, rivers, earth, the sun, the moon, and stars are mind. So we don't get to separate ourselves from anything at all. And thus, if the aspiration for enlightenment happens, it happens in every speck of the universe. You know, not just every person, and not just the tree next to me and the soil under my feet, but in every grain of sand. It happens in the mosquitoes. I'm having relationships with mosquitoes these days. I'm trying to understand them.
Should go to Sosan's workshop.
Thank you for that thought. That was actually a wonderful suggestion.
What did he say?
I should go to Sosan's workshop about relationships, about starting over. So I'm trying to start over with mosquitoes. Once I thought, what are they? I'm asking them, what do they want? What do you want? What do you want? I think that day I had neither bug stuff nor bug hat on. It must have been like the first day they came out. And I sort of have these intuitions, you know. They don't talk to me in words. But I think they want attention. So I tried giving them attention. And for the moments that I gave them full attention, they didn't bite me. But you know how long those moments were? You know, as soon as I had a clear, like, I'm not being attacked, then I start thinking about something, and then they come in. The next time I was out with my bug hat, and so I could listen to them hum. And you know, we hear the hum of mosquitoes and we become afraid. like I'm about to be bombarded. I have really a lot of little bites on the back of my head. But because I was protected, I could just listen. It's like, this is actually like a beautiful choir. It's a beautiful sound. And our relationship with them prevents us from hearing it. I would like to be able to hear the mosquitoes holding out the hand of enlightenment, holding out that single hand. I would like to hear that. I would like to hear the poison ivy holding out that hand, and certain people, and so forth. And so I can read about it, and I'm studying it. It's like, here's this single hand held out in the midst of all being. And bodhicitta and conditions are holding this out together. Our lives, whether they're pleasant, like, oh, we've had these magnificent days and the sun and the beautiful fresh air, and the raspberries are ripe, or whether it's mosquitoes and technology not working and all of those things that are happening in my life, which, I've got one of the easier lives in the world. I'm aware of that. But that's the hand being held out to us. My gosh, all those people whose names were read, the ones who are sick, the ones who have difficult circumstances, and the ones who died. Not so much the ones who died, but the difficulties of life. All of those things are a hand held out to us. And I certainly would not say to somebody, that problem you have is the hand inviting you to enlightenment. Unless they wanted me to say that, It's too easy to mind trip people. Say, oh, you should do this spiritually. I just want to eat, I just want a roof over my head. I just want not to be shot. And that I just want not to be shot. And a roof over my head and food. All of these are things that we're really aware of in our world right now. But they're not happening to us. There could be somebody in this room who has just escaped from a situation and I wouldn't know it. And there could be somebody in this room who's got a life-threatening illness and I wouldn't know it. So I think that I'm talking to the people who are living relatively comfortable lives, but I really don't know. But so, to the people who came here, because you asked for the Dharma, I can say, whatever it is that's going on, that is an offering. That's an offering to transform your life, my life, our lives, into a gift received, and to live it that way. Everything I did. There was this piece a little later that I thought I wasn't going to have time to get into, about everyday mind. It's like a couple pages later in the text. And he says, everyday mind, I should stop for questions. 10 minutes, yeah.
Shodo, would you tell us what the name of the text you're using is?
Body and Mind Study of the Way. Which was, I did mention it way at the beginning. But, yeah.
The author?
This is Dogen.
Oh, that is Dharma.
Yeah, it's Dogen. It's Shobogenzo.
Now that one is the Shobogenzo.
Yeah, and it's in Moon in the Dewdrop.
Say it again?
It's in the book, that early book, Moon in the Dewdrop.
What fascicle is it?
What number?
Don't they?
It's
What do they
body
call
and
it?
mind study the way.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm having, it's number 38, if that's what you wanted. But yeah, it's called Body and Mind Study of the Way. And it's not one I ever looked at until I was looking for a certain phrase. And I found it there, and then I started reading the fascicle. And it's really exciting. This teaching is not the broken furniture of an abandoned house, but the collected efforts and accumulated virtue of studying the way. Isn't that sweet? It's really poetic. And my favorite one, which I haven't figured out a way to talk about it, but I'm going to read it to you because it's fun. Mind does not converse with bare pillars or rub shoulders with hanging lanterns. In this manner, the mind studies the way running barefoot. Who could get a glimpse of it? The mind studies the way turning somersaults. All things tumble over with it. So, running barefoot and turning somersaults. But I don't have anything to say about that. I just like it. Okay, yes.
When you started, you said something, I don't know if it was in a quote or you were saying it, about how we manifest enlightenment is through our practice or through sitting, or I didn't quite, I was just wondering if you could reiterate that little piece, because I cottoned to that.
Yeah, so manifest, and so it's interesting here, he's always talking about the aspiration for enlightenment. Mm-hmm. He's not talking about enlightenment itself, but I'm not really eager to say there's a lot of difference between them. So sitting Zazen is a very clear manifestation. As we sit down in the middle of the whole universe, and the universe supports us. And Dogen writes about that at length in Bendoa, which he actually wrote as one of his first works. And when you sit down, everything comes in and supports you. And when you sit down, you become part of this circle of giving and receiving, and so you are supporting everything. And that's the way practice works. Everything supports you, you support everything. Of course, this is like saying, my heart supports my lungs or something. Because everything is not really separate from me. But for the sake of discussing it, we make a little separation and we say, it supports me and I support it. So that's Zazen. And then that same thing is true in all the rest of our lives. And so every action you do can be practice, can be expression of enlightenment. Okay, thanks. Other questions? Seems like time for questions. I hope. Thanks. Yes.
That line from that one that you found fun.
Yes?
The line that really stuck out for me was all things tumble over with it. The idea that when somebody turns a somersault, the entire universe tumbles over.
Yeah. And I think that's like the thing I just said. It's like, you can't do this by yourself. And it's true that that's the experience of turning a somersault. Like, oh, wow, everything's upside down. Yeah.
A couple of days ago, I was walking in the sunshine, and I had the experience of seeing the phenomenon of light pulsing. And it was, I was surprised because the sky itself was pulsing as though there were like lightning, but it was just the sun. And I'm likening that experience to the idea of awakening moment by moment, where the life force that animates is sort of like the support of staying in the moment. And so I like about what you say, the idea that it doesn't matter what the karma is. So what that says to me is that the real, true present moment, which includes everything that's animated in any given moment, is allowed and able to disentangle from causes, conditions, to be alive and awake, which already exists. So it's very hopeful, because it says that all of us, no matter how heavy our heart is in any given moment, can be as light as light in light.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Could everybody hear it? Yeah. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the same time, when bad things happen, how does the idea of aspiration being unto itself help us understand effort? Like, so then we just enjoy that it's there, or it's tricky.
Wow. I think that's an important question. Because, one of the things that Buddhists often do is they focus on this, and they don't deal with, like, well, how am I going to get through the day? When whatever bad thing it is. So how does it help us? I've known people who are activists dealing with incredible injustices, some of whom their energy was focused on the injustice, and it seemed like the world out there is like it was really a fight. They were in a fight with 95% of the world. And I've known people, while the 95% were still there, who had a sense of connection. It's like I'm thinking of people who were using spiritual resources. So I know Lakota people and Wet'suwet'en people and Anishinaabe people and so forth, who still have an intact spiritual tradition. And the actions that they do feel qualitatively different. And it's not that I don't hear anger, and it's not that they deny what's happening. It's that they know that the big thing that they are part of, it's like they're part of something large, and that thing over there is not the power of the universe. The thing that supports and cares is the power of the universe. And that, I think, creates a way of exerting effort that makes things easier. Yes?
I think it's also like what you were saying about the difference between goal and vow.
Oh.
So with a goal, you're working sort of against the bad things with a goal in mind in the future. And with the vow, you're attending to what's going on in the present. And you're connected to that, and you're supported by all beings. And you still might have an idea and be working in a certain direction, like this might be helpful, but I really appreciated your distinction between those two about the vow being in the present, working in the present.
Yeah, he did it.
And you
I got it. So, yeah, and that's an important thing. I don't think it's the same thing as these people I'm talking about. It's like I'm seeing faces, and Facebook conversations. But there's really that. But so, sometimes the situation you're in is you're going to lose your house, or they have shot your child, or you think they're about to shoot your other child, the one that's left. And this is, everybody knows now about how black parents have to tell their kids, that talk. We didn't used to know that, but now collectively we know that the way I can act on the street around the police is not the same as the way a black teenage boy or girl has to act on the street around police. Keep your hands visible at all times and don't make a sudden move and so forth. And whatever you do, don't run away. That your children have to live with that you have to live with that. And you don't know if they'll come home. So vow, it's like a little more intense. And I can imagine going, well, you have to let go of everything. But I can't imagine saying that to somebody whose life that was. I'm the one who should let go of everything. My practice, and maybe if I'm ever in a situation like that, then I'll work on letting go of everything. Right now I'm just letting go of mosquitoes and money and, the things in my life. So was that helpful at all? Do you have another question? Thank you so much for that question. So,
the closing chant is on the front of your bulletin. May our intention equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way.